In this video, I'm going to take you through my entire design process for designing marketing and social media posts. We'll talk about building brand identity guidelines, best practices, and top resources to create amazing designs. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. This entire video is split into 3 modules. Let's start with module number 1. Deciding the foundations of your brand identity. Before designing any marketing collateral, there are 4 foundational elements that you need to confirm. One is your logo, then your typeface, which is basically the font, but the correct word for it is actually typeface. So here, everything that you see on my slide is in a font called Satoshi, which is a free font. That is, you can use it for commercial purposes as well. As a beginner, as a startup, you should always try to use open source typefaces. We'll discuss about this later on. Your third thing is going to be the brand palette, which are basically a set of colors that you will regularly use in your brand identity. And then important social media guidelines. When you post something on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, there are certain rules that you need to follow to sort of adapt well to their UI. Understand that there are different types of a logo. And if you're just starting out, I would recommend you to start with a logo type, which means that if your company's name is, let's just say, Ansh Mehra, instead of having a symbol or something that is very symbolic or an illustration, just have the words Ansh Mehra in a good font. Now, I would recommend you to go over Pinterest and understand the different types of logos. So this is a quick image right here. You have pictorial logos, you have letter forms, you have emblems, and then you have word marks. I would recommend you to start with something like this because these are easy to make, easy to maintain, and you don't need to hire a lot of expensive illustrators, whereas these kinds of logos, they require a lot of homework and a lot of effort. The best route is to just get an open source font and just type your brand in that typeface. Now, important things to consider. First thing, when you make a logo, or let's just call it a logo type or a word mark, make sure that if it is very, very small, it is legible. So don't use a lot of complicated, intricate fonts. Just ask yourself, if I were to stitch this on a t-shirt, would it be easy? Second thing is, if I were to print this on a very small visiting card, would it still be legible? So you have to ask yourself, is it stitchable and is it printable? Then always stick to 2 colors. Let's just say that you have your brand name and you're into tech, so you probably pick something like blue. If you're in the food industry, you would probably pick something in red. Stick with either blue with a contrast of white, red with a contrast of white. Don't have more than 2 colors. It is not recommended. Second is, no matter what logo you have, always have a variant that is visible on black background. Always have a version that is visible on a white background, because your logo needs to be legible on both black and white completely. When I mean legible, it means that even if the ink is low, even if someone is looking at your logo in low brightness or in a very dim area, they could still figure out what your logo says. Then optimize for digital displays. Not sure if you guys are noticing, but a lot of brands are actually going through de-branding. That is, they are removing a lot of shadows, a lot of textures, a lot of effects in their logos, because earlier days they used to optimize their logos for printing, for metallic textures, for stitching. But now a lot of people are using digital screens to see applications, to see brands. So then they are optimizing their color palettes, they are optimizing their emblems and symbols for digital displays. And if you feel that you're not creative enough, you can either outsource it to freelancers, I will tell you the cost later on, or use free templates. And I'm going to be talking about this product called Envato. I've been a user of Envato since 2020 and it's been 3 years. And trust me, everything that I make has been influenced by the templates that I get from Envato. Now, how to get a logo that looks good? As I mentioned, go to Google Fonts and they have this area on the top where you can type in something. And you can select a few fonts, you can type in your letter, let's just say you have some text, and it will give you a preview of how your word will look like in multiple fonts. If you're into tech or if you're into something modern or marketing, choose a sans serif font. They have a filter on the left side. Choose sans serif and choose monospace. And if you're making text for your posters or reel covers or carousels where you have limited width, then you can always look at condensed fonts. Condensed means that all of the letters are very close to each other, so you can fit a lot in a limited width, right? Otherwise, if you don't want to do it yourself, you can always outsource it to designers. In India right now, when you go to freelancers, they will charge you anywhere between 15,000 to 25,000 for the logo, simply because it's a one-time purchase and you will use it forever for commercial purposes. Otherwise, you can always download templates and then just change the text. So they will already have style. So Envato has a couple of templates. You just download them, open them in Photoshop, and just change the text and colors. Now what you can do is, if you don't know Photoshop, you can download templates from Envato, give it to your designer, and just tell your designer that this is the vision I have. Please make this according to my thoughts. Now, once your logo is done, please make sure that it fits in a square boundary. Avoid logos that are either too wide or avoid logos that are either too tall. It's just a quick suggestion. You can also see my logo as a reference. My logo is absolutely clear on both white backgrounds and black backgrounds. It is very easy to print, very easy to stitch, and it comes in a square boundary. Now, once you've decided your logo, you obviously need to put out posters and brochures where there's a lot of text. For text also, you need to choose a specific typeface or a font, but we will now refer this as a typeface. So you have to decide the typeface and your brand palette, which is basically a set of colors. Even in your colors, there's a primary color and a secondary color, and I'll tell you what they mean, don't worry. But basically, even for typefaces, I would suggest you Google Fonts. There are 4 fonts that I recommend, especially for social media. They're very clean, very easy to read, and very legible. One is Satoshi, what I've been using right now. Before Satoshi, I used to use Inter, again very good font. Then there's Roboto, again very minimal, perfect for tech. There's also Barlow. So I use Barlow for my IG reel covers because it is a condensed form, which means I can cramp up a lot of text in a limited width space. Right now, one very important factor in choosing a good typeface is that you need multiple weights. Weight means there is a regular, there is a medium, there is a bold, there is semi-bold, there is black. So on Google Fonts, you have all these filters available. In fact, now to make my reel covers look better, I am switching to Envato font. So even on Envato, if you click on fonts, you have a list of really cool typefaces just to, spice things up. I've realized that every time I have used a special font from Envato, the cover just stands out. Otherwise, I only used to use Barlow again and again and again. It was getting very repetitive. I was also feeling very uncreative. So now I've started to use really good typefaces from Envato, and in Envato also they have similar filters. So you can click on condensed, you can click on sans serif, and you'll get all these fonts in one place. Now, in description, I will put a list of some free fonts, some articles that recommend you good fonts from Google Fonts, so that'll help you make your search easier. Next, you need to get a brand palette that suits your industry. So the thing is, color theory is very, very important. And I will actually share 2 resources. Both of these resources are extremely powerful. Like I'm telling you, if you learn from these 2 resources, you will learn a lot about color. In fact, go to Pinterest and just type brand color theory. So you'll realize how blue has a certain vibe to it, how red has a certain connotation to it, how green is used only by specific brands. In the end, it is very important to know the guidelines for each social media. So for example, when we post something on Instagram, you can have a 1080 by 1350 image, which is a 3:4 image. But if I want to upload the same image on a YouTube community post, I have to make it into a square image of 1080 by 1080. If I have to post the same carousel on LinkedIn, then I can't use JPEGs. I have to export it as a PDF, and there I can have 3:4 PDFs. I can also reuse 1:1, but I always try to put it 3:4 because I just have more real estate. Now, even in terms of limits, on Instagram you can only have 10 images, on YouTube you can only have 10 images, but on LinkedIn there is no limit. I think I've in fact posted carousels that were for 30 slides as well, right? So these are small things that you need to consider, because if you're making a LinkedIn carousel which is for 20 posts, then you can't reuse that on your YouTube and your Instagram. So you need to be very mindful about these design decisions. Stories are 9:16. So 16:9 is wide and 9:16 is tall. So this is width, this is height. So when I say 9:16, this is my width, this is my height. So we have 1080 by 1920 for our story dimension. So I use these frame dimensions on Figma. So I recently hosted a meetup. I am about to host a meetup in Bangalore, which is an AI and design meetup. So for that, I made covers. Right now, see my design decisions. I have two wide covers. This I used for LinkedIn, and because I know a lot of people use LinkedIn from their desktops, I added a QR code. On the other hand, if I want to put this anywhere else where I know that people will not be seeing this on their computer, they will be using this on their phone, or maybe this is a printable thing, then I removed the QR code. Then I made a long version of it. So I swapped the order. Now my face is at the bottom, text is on the top. Then I made a square version for YouTube as well. And I did not make a 3:4 version. Why? Because now I've made a 1:1 version, which works on Instagram, which works on LinkedIn, which works on YouTube. Otherwise, I would have to unnecessarily make a 3:4 version and a 1:1 version, and it's just a waste of my time. All right, now that module 1 is done, in module 2, we will understand different components of a cover. So let's just take an example of a reel cover that I recently made. See, in every cover, you have this thing called copy, which is actually text. Then you have a hero image, which in this case is my face right here. So this is my copy, this is my hero image. Then you have the background, which is this at the back. And then you have effects, which are probably this paper clip. I added some spray, some paper textures, all of these things together. And then you also have to make sure that everything has high contrast so that things are not mixing up. And you have legibility even if the thumbnail was shrunk. So even if someone is seeing this as a very small thumbnail, they should be able to read this text properly. In fact, on Instagram Reels, it's very important that your main text should come in a square boundary, because when you see your reel cover in your grid, you can only see this part. And when you're uploading your reel cover, you can actually drag and select a part of your reel cover. So you can choose the top square, you can choose the bottom square, but the point is, make sure that your main copy comes under that square thing. Otherwise, it will get cropped out and people will not be able to read it when they come to your profile. So now that you know the basics of brand identity guidelines and just a basic component structure of a cover, I'm going to show you my real Figma files on how I design my covers and break it down for you. So the most important thing here is organization. I have a header component that lets me quickly organize all my covers one by one, and you can go to my Instagram and see these covers live. Now let's pick any one of them. Let's just say I pick this cover right here, right? So I showed you how this cover had multiple components. When it comes to the copy, I made it new job using AI. Very simple to understand. I know that a lot of my followers are looking for new jobs and they want to use AI. So this is where I have locked my copy. So on Envato Elements, they have a section called graphics. In graphics, if you type textures, paper textures, grungy textures, metallic textures, you will get many things. So I downloaded a texture pack, I opened Photoshop, I wrote this text, and then I exported this for my Figma file. So I exported the text separately as a PNG. Then in graphics, I found a pack that spoke about sprays. So it had like this huge library of really cool looking sprays. Again, opened them in Photoshop, added color to them. Then there was a paper texture, like an office stationery pack, some sticky notes pack, and I've put them all together to make it look like this. This metallic texture was from one pack. This HUD thing was from another pack. So it's very important that you know what to look for when you're searching on Envato. If you want something very futuristic, you should type HUD, holographic, hologram, futuristic. If you're looking for textures and you need to type something like grungy or realistic, or you need to know the right words, and you will get this by practice, to be honest. But what I always do is I make sure that I add textures to my text and covers. It just makes it look very detailed and very cool. And when the final result comes in, you can see how crazy it looks, right? In fact, I even put a logo at the bottom. I don't put it on the bottom left corner because here my view counter comes in. In fact, I've also put a ramp because on the Instagram UI, that white text might not be legible if I were to put it here on this, right? So this ramp makes sure that my view count is always legible. So now that you understand the basics of brand identity guidelines and a structure of a cover, it's time we shift to module 3, where I show you how do I use my design resources. So we will start with Envato Elements because I've been a user of this platform since 2020, and I personally feel that this is hands down the most cost-effective solution out there for creatives. I am not joking. Any video that you've seen of mine, any social media post, any reel, any story that you see, a lot of the visual graphics and elements and sounds have come from Envato Elements. So this is the homepage. They have both monthly and annual plans, and you can go here and go through stock video templates. If I click on video templates and click on search, they have multiple templates for After Effects, Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro. As I was mentioning, every time I have to design something, I go to their graphics section and start typing for abstract backgrounds, for textures. So you can always have a look at all of these things. So what I usually do is I regularly check out their platform. So every week I have dedicated time slots where I just randomly scroll through Envato Elements, and they have this option called add to collection. So I can basically make folders, and I have this collection called cool stuff. Let me show you that, where I've been collecting all of these things one by one. In fact, if I go to my collections, you will see that I have different folders. There's one collection for cool stuff, for my AI series, for YouTube series, for Instagram Reels. It's a very powerful platform because it serves all softwares. It has amazing templates. And as I was saying, if you go to graphic templates and just type the word logo, you will come up with multiple logo mockups. So if you're working on a brand identity project, you can put your logo here and actually see your things come to life. And they have these cool templates for Illustrator, Photoshop. You can edit all of them very, very easily. Now, even though this video is sponsored by Envato, I was just going through my account history and I started using them on April 1, 2020. And I'm not joking. Go to my Instagram, you'd realize that the quality of my artwork, the quality of my graphics went 10x after I joined Envato. It's a good investment and it pays you a lot because you pay one time and get unlimited assets without any limit. Now, before this video ends, there are 3 very, very powerful resources that you can use to improve your social media designs, to improve your understanding of marketing design and brand guidelines. Resource number 1 is brandingstyleguides.com. Amazing curation of real brand guidelines from brands that you and I consume on a daily basis. You can go to this website, create an account, log in and download their brand deck. So basically for every brand, all of their guidelines are part of a deck. Resource number 2 is for people who are actually freelancing, who are actually in the design industry and are trying to get better clients. So every time you get a client for marketing design, for social media posts or for brand identities, you need to create a brief. So a brief is basically this document where you ask questions from your client, put it on a single page so that you and your client are on the same page, you have the same context and you know their direction and you know their vision. But a lot of students don't know what to ask. They don't know what briefs to make. So on this website, you just go here, put in your client's name, put in your email ID, and then they give you a free template that you can use to ask questions from your clients and create a good brief so that you can make a very well thought project. Third resource is goodbrief.io, which is not for real life projects, but just for your practice. So if you're a beginner and you want to get hands-on experience on marketing design, social media carousels, logos, or anything around marketing and brand identity, you can use this platform to get dummy briefs. And it's pretty detailed. They have multiple categories, multiple projects. As soon as you click on generate, you get a lot of briefs. So you can use this website to get a design brief, then give yourself a span of 10 to 15 days to understand what the brand can be about, and then use Envato Elements to take typefaces, to take graphic elements, to create a proper brand guideline deck. In fact, Envato also has its own marketplace. So there are 2 websites that you need to check out. There is elements.envato and there's also Envato Marketplace. Both of these websites are very, very useful, extremely resourceful for creatives, designers, and video editors. You will find all the details in description. You will also find the link to create an account in description. Now, if you're here for the first time, my name is Ansh Mehra and I create content around AI, design, and technology. We've been making some very cool videos around UX design, prompt engineering, ChatGPT, Midjourney, and a lot more. All videos will be in description. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, and comment your reviews. Every time you post a story on Instagram by tagging me on @anshmehra.work, I feel so happy. I acknowledge every single story that you put on Instagram. I really appreciate the support. With that being said, I hope that you're taking care of your mind and body. This is your dost Ansh Mehra signing out.